You know that moment when a child with autism reaches out and trying to touch Johnny's pencil case? Or maybe they come closer to another child and suddenly give them a big hug. Then immediately an adult steps in. No touching. This is not how we play. Keep your hands to yourself, please. We don't touch our friends' stuff. So the child with autism goes back to scripting and goes back to stimming. And an adult goes back to feeling that they've done a great job. But what if that was the only way that child knew how to say, I want to play with you? And what if the behavior that just looked like that needed a correction wasn't actually an attempt to connect? You know, most of us neurotypical people, we have a natural sense of, for example, facing another person when we're talking to them. And we have intuitive sense of where our body is during the interaction. We can lean in when we're interested and we can turn our body towards the person we want to talk to. We don't even think about those things because it happens automatically. But for many autistic children, the sense of body positioning could feel different. They might stand an unusual angle, or they might not turn to the person who is talking to them. Or they even might make movements that seem awkward. This doesn't mean the child isn't interested and that social curiosity is not there. They have difference in body awareness and sensory processing, attention, muscle tone, and coordination. The social curiosity is there, but they don't have the social skills yet to make it work. And what looks like inappropriate behavior might be the only pathway they have right now to show interest in another person. And although with good intention, sometimes adults shut it down immediately. And unfortunately, with that, they're shutting down that attempt to connect, which already came with a lot of effort. I observed many times in a classroom an autistic child just moving closer to another child, or maybe give him a sudden hug, or maybe wants to sit in a chair that has a name tag of the child they want to play with, or they might start repeating everything the other child says. And more often than not, those attempts are met with no, this is not how we play, this is not allowed. Stop this, please, this is wrong. So what message is the child getting? My way of connecting doesn't work. So they stop trying. Then we see more of scripting, walking in circles, and playing along. But now the classroom is quiet and everyone is happy. And rarely anybody notices that something actually very big just happened. A small child whose very ability to socialize is impaired did everything they could to still try to connect with another child, to still bring forward their desire to connect, even though it looked completely not typical to adults. So how about instead we learn how to not shut down that attempt to connect? And that doesn't mean we have to ignore boundaries of the other children, of course. But before we stop the behavior that didn't look very typical to us, we might ask ourselves, was that an attempt to connect? And if the answer is yes, we can do two things. First, very important, we acknowledge that attempt to connect. We say something like, you want to play with him. This way, we validate the intention and we keep the connection alive. Next, we guide them without shutting it down. And how do we do that? We do it by modeling. Let's gently wave hello. Let's tap gently on the shoulder. Let's show Johnny the toy you have. Or the teacher can model and roll the card first. Say, oh, my turn, and then give turns to both of them. We can model simple, repeatable words. For example, like play, my turn, hi. Even if the child doesn't repeat that right away, we're still building that pathway. We can also explain it to the other child and say, look, he's trying to play with you. This way, the situation is not a problem, but a shared moment of learning. And I've seen this happen numerous times. When you acknowledge the attempt to connect, then you model the proper ways of doing it, and you open a new door to a child with autism for friendships and connection. Because when adults only see the behavior, they try to correct. But when they understand the intention, they can connect. Because that hug, that touch, that reaching for a toy is the beginning of communication. And if we protect that beginning instead of shutting it down, we're giving the child something so important, a way to connection, not out of it. Because before we teach the children how to connect, we have to recognize that they're already trying. Thank you for watching.